My philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble.
The civil rights movement might not have a definitive beginning event. Some would say it was when Rosa Parks refused to move seats on their bus. Some would say it was earlier with the death of Emmett Till. In any case, the movement was in full force by the tail end of the 1950s. The Montgomery bus boycotts, Brown versus Board of Education, and the Little Rock Nine, all of these are early events that would set the pace for later actions such as the sit-ins, freedom rides, and the marches that would give a platform to now famous civil rights activists and leaders who would lend their voices to the movement and inspire others. How do you think that media, being any form of media, film, photography, news coverage, how do you think it played a role in promoting or spreading the civil rights movement?
I think it was powerful and very effective and important.
Yes.
I mean, visual art is very good, and the music was powerful.
Sure.
The films were powerful. The songs, especially about protest, but they were good films. Especially, and then now, especially historic films, documentaries. I think they're powerful. We need more people watching them and seeing and looking at them.
As Jerry Knight said himself, the media and art was effective and important. That might be an understatement, as I would even say the movement would not have succeeded without the media, and without individuals who spread stories using mass media and art. Photographers, newspaper editors, journalists, filmmakers, these are people who helped to show the world exactly what racial injustice was happening in the United States. Another essential side of this was the music of the movement, which advocated for rights and spread messages of resistance and unity through airwaves, probably more powerful than any news headline. Despite progression in the civil rights movement, there was and still is a history of appropriation, misrepresentation, and plain ignorance of underrepresented people and groups, often within the movement itself. Enter Marlon Riggs, an activist and artist who confronted the ignorance through film. His storytelling exposed bigotry, corruption, and how powerful misrepresentation is, proving media isn't just about who gets to be seen, but who really gets to be heard. Marlon Riggs was a second-generation civil rights activist and filmmaker. Growing up in Texas, he was isolated from both the black and gay communities he identified with, which deeply affected his work as an artist. Riggs' first film, Ethnic Notions, dealt specifically with the legacy of racism in American culture, dating back to slavery and pertaining to how racism originated in pre-emancipation media. His 1989 film, Tongues Untied, dealt with breaking stereotypes in both black and gay communities and the conflict of identifying as both. It gained national attention and showed America a new side of oppression. Speaking of this intersection, it was more common than one might expect. However, there was widespread discrimination against black people in gay communities and vice versa, which is an unfortunate reality. An example of this is Bayard Rustin, MLK's de facto right-hand man and the principal organizer of the March on Washington. Rustin was one of the great planners of the movement, and absolutely essential to its success, but he was an openly gay man and frequently repressed by leaders and activists alike, proving there was still injustice within the movement itself. Riggs died in 1994 of complications relating to AIDS, but his legacy as a bold artist and as an activist lives on, continuing the fight for fair representation. With my mind. What I've learned from watching Marlon Riggs' films and examining his life is the double-sided nature of the power of media. It can greatly influence popular opinion and make action happen, but it's used for both good and bad. Riggs used change to force America to look at the hidden struggles of silenced voices, but others use the media to enforce racist opinions and uphold racist standards. During the civil rights movement, the media was crucial in driving change. Television, newspapers, and photos shared the stories of protests and the violence activists face, reaching millions. These images sparked empathy, built support, and put pressure on the government, greatly helping change laws and create better rights for black people in America. The media didn't just report what was happening, it helped make change actually happen. The 1950s and the 60s were an interesting time for the civil rights movement to happen. The Vietnam War was raging, the Cold War was ongoing, feminist movements were making waves, and it was all being publicized through newspapers, radio, and television. It was truly a time of great change on many fronts, and the civil rights movement was no exception. For the first time, millions of people in America and abroad were seeing the truth, and oppressed people who had long suffered and were now acquiring their rights peacefully. Millions saw the brutality of Birmingham and the outright racism in Little Rock. Only when the pressure to end segregation risked spilling into violence did the federal government act, passing the Civil Rights Act and several other laws that aim to end racism in America. I hope this opened up new ideas to you, but this is still an ongoing issue. We might not see discrimination and bigotry as commonly as it was 50 or 60 years ago, but the fight for civil rights and true freedom isn't over. Maybe now more than ever, the prospect of diversity isn't looking so positive. And this applies to representation in the media as well. I encourage you to question popular media. What you hear in music, what you watch in films, think about who's controlling the narrative, and think about who's being left out of it. Injustices exist today, but sometimes in more subtle, more camouflaged ways. Sometimes injustice doesn't shout, sometimes it whispers, and maybe it's our job to listen.